All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in tonight's video. 2-0 start on the road, 20-16 victory over the Detroit Lions. Folks, when you're playing a team like the Detroit Lions, it doesn't matter how it looks. All that matters is you got it done, and that's exactly what Tampa did. 1 year ago, we saw Tampa Bay in the post-Tom Brady era continue to perform. Finishing 9-8, winning a playoff game against the Philadelphia Eagles, hold on their own against Detroit in that divisional round of the playoffs. But this year, they look much better. This defense that people were concerned about, not Buccaneers fans, but people were concerned with some of the names they were losing on the defensive side. The GM continues to showcase that he's one of the best GMs in the entire National Football League. And now we're seeing Baker Mayfield really playing at the best we've ever seen of him. I was literally just talking to a Browns fan the other day. He was saying, I'm still upset we let Baker Mayfield go. So a week ago, Baker Mayfield through the air was an absolute beast. He threw for 289 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was probably the best quarterback in the NFL week 1. And yesterday against Detroit, he didn't need to do as much. He went 12-19 for 185 yards. That's just a little under 10 yards per completion, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was taking a massive amount of hits, specifically from Aiden Hutchinson, but he held his own. He even got it going with his legs, 5 carries, 34 yards, and a touchdown. So, folks, welcome back to the channel. We're obviously talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in tonight's video, but before we do, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL and Bucs content. If we could try and get this video to 100 likes, folks, that would mean the absolute world to me. Here's a fun fact for my MVP guys in the comment section. Baker Mayfield's 6 touchdowns are the most of any player in the National Football League through the first 2 weeks of the year. Now, getting into some specifics, the run game is not great. And we're going to get to that in just a second because you got Denver this upcoming week. There's a very real legitimate chance that Tampa Bay can start 3-0 going up against a rookie QB and Bo Nix. But the run game's a just absolute mess. And keep in mind, man, missing the right tackle, right? Missing Luke at right tackle. The run game in the last 2 seasons has been a disaster, but Bucky Irvin, the rookie, last week showcased a lot. Rashad White got banged up in this game, but he ultimately did return. It's not good, but keep in mind, man, Detroit last season was a top 5 rush defense, and it's not just Aiden Hutchinson. They've got a bunch of studs. I think by the end of the year, Detroit's going to be one of the best defenses in the National Football League, but defensively, man, they're a legitimate team. So Baker Mayfield led the team in rushing yards. Bucky Irvin, 7 carries, 22 yards. And then you had Rashad White, 10 carries for only 18 yards. But once again, we're going to get to that in just a second. The score's a little bit weird. Detroit threw the ball. Jared Goff threw the ball over 50 times, only for the 3rd time in his Detroit tenure. And, they were only 2 of 10 on 3rd down. And most of their offense came in that first half. They did score a touchdown in the 3rd, but they were up 13-6 heading into halftime. And we saw guys like Chris Godwin, who's on an absolute tear, 7 catches, 117 yards, and a touchdown. Contract year, man. Chris Godwin, after 2 weeks, 15 catchable targets, 15 catches, 200 yards, 91.7 PFF grade, 158.3 perfect rating when targeted. And then you have Mike Evans, 3 catches, 42 yards. Jalen McMillan, the rookie, he had a nice 21-yard catch that set up that 3rd quarter touchdown from Baker Mayfield and co. Would like to see a little bit more Rashad White, only 1 catch for 5 yards. Would love to see a little bit of K-Dot, and he played the entire game, more so as a blocker, 2 targets, 0 catches. But man, top 3, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan, K-Dot, and Rashad White. There's playmaker after playmaker after playmaker on this defense. Let's talk about the defense. I think I said offense. A lot of playmakers on the offense, obviously. Defensively, man, the big thing was, there's no Antoine Winfield. The whole defense in general was banged up. You didn't have Kalijah Cansey. You only had Vita Vea for a half before he left with an knee injury. He's currently day-to-day. Tampa Bay did not get a sack on Sunday, but they had 23 pressures and 11 quarterback hits on Jared Goff, which forced him into a couple of interceptions. Zion McCollum, we're going to get to him in just a second. And then Christian Izien. 2 great interceptions, man. But the player of the game, in my opinion, was Servasia Dennis. This guy's been an absolute beast, turning into a full-time linebacker for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. He had 11 total tackles. And once again, you're without your top pass rushing defensive tackle in Kalijah Kancey. You didn't have Vita Vea for the second half. Yaya Diaby stepping in right where he left off last season, extremely underrated. Most people don't even know who Yaya is. 7 pressures, 5 quarterback hurries, and 2 quarterback hits. That's why the advanced statistics matter, because I think he only finished the game technically with 1 or 2 tackles. If we go back to that playoff loss in Detroit in the divisional round, the Bucs only pressured Jared Goff 17 times. They only hit him 3 times with a pair of sacks on 48 pass plays. So he was pressured 6 more times in week 2, and he was hit twice as much. But obviously, the most important part of that game defensively was they held Detroit to just 1 of 7 in the red zone. I mean, that is absolutely huge. That is why the Detroit Lions only scored 16 points. Fourth quarter in that divisional game, they were outscored 14-6. In the fourth quarter, the Bucs defense forced a punt. They got an interception. They forced 2 turnover on downs at the 11-yard line and then the 26-yard line in the fourth quarter. So huge difference maker. And then I got to pinpoint Zion McCollum because he earned 83.2 PFF coverage grade, allowing just 2 catches for 20 yards on 6 total targets. He also had his first ever NFL interception on Jared Goff's first throw of the game. He also broke up a career high 4 passes. And then you had Christian Izien, who we just mentioned, replacing Antoine Winfield for Tampa Bay's other pick. So defensively, they got talent up front. They got talent in the back. And most importantly, guys, they have depth. All right. This is a really solid defense that is going to keep them in every single football game. And if Baker Mayfield and this offense with Liam Cohen, the new offensive coordinator, can keep doing their things, you're going to see success. So let's look into the future real quick. You've got you've got Denver at home this upcoming week. It's going to be huge because things get a little bit dicey after it. You come back home, or you stay at home for Philly, then you head to New Orleans, you head to Atlanta, then you head to New Orleans, and then you come back home for Baltimore, you come back home for Atlanta, and then you go on the road against Kansas City, you come back home against San Francisco, and then you got your bye week in week 11. So get as many wins as humanly possible. The Broncos are up next, and running the ball is going to be extremely important with Bucky and Rashad, because the Broncos through 2 games have allowed, or I should say, have the league's 24th ranked rush defense through the first 2 weeks, averaging about 144 yards per game given up. And hopefully Tampa Bay can have their first 100-yard rusher of the season this upcoming Sunday. So that's all we got for tonight. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL and Bucs content. Guys, give me your player of the game down below. We'll see you in a couple of days. Peace.